The Horn of Africa. The Horn of Africa is a massively important geographical area in terms of the evolution of humans, the mythology of Kemetic Nubian peoples, as well as biblical references. Some of the earliest human fossils in the world are found here, and the Bible mentions Ethiopia, which was its term for any of the land south of Egypt, 45 times. The people of Kemet would call it the land of gods and ancestors, and it was referenced as their ancestral home or a sacred place for them. The Horn of Africa lies along the southern side of the Red Sea and extends hundreds of kilometers into the Gulf of Aden, the Somali Sea, and the Guardafui Channel. This is the easternmost projection of the African continent and is referenced in not only ancient kingdoms but also throughout medieval times as the land of Barbara and Habesha. And this area is really what we're talking about is home to four distinct sovereign nations: Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somali. It's an area that covers roughly 770,000 square miles and is inhabited by approximately 121 million people, 96 million Ethiopians, 15 million Somalians, 6.4 Eritreans, and just under a million of the citizens of Djibouti. And this was also home to the kingdom of Punt, which is probably the ancient predecessor to the land that we would call Kemet, which would also ultimately be called the land of Egypt. And the history of this land shows human activity as far back as 25,000 years before Common Era, which would push back any ideas of when the foundation of some of the river civilizations actually occurred. There are many native languages spoken in this area, including Somali, the Afar language, Amharic, and several other native dialogues. In terms of foreign working languages, English reigns throughout that area, as does Arabic, French, and Italian for their occupations or colonizations of various regions of that land. Although they were ultimately linked to the earliest of the Kemetic deities, they are also imbued with a great diversity in other religions, including Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, as well as other traditional faiths. The Horn of Africa supports four multiple currencies: the Ethiopian birr, the Somali shilling, the Eritrean nakfa, and the Djibouti franc. The area that was ultimately called Ta Neter, meaning God's land, was mentioned in texts as far back as the 25th century BCE, and the land would support multiple kingdoms, including the kingdom of Denotes, which was located in Eritrea and northern Ethiopia, which existed during the 7th and 8th centuries. And this was a kingdom that had well-developed irrigation systems, used a plow, made iron tools and weapons. After the fall of this kingdom in approximately the 5th century, the area was dominated by many smaller successor kingdoms. But soon the Axiom Empire, known as the Axiomite Empire, united the area under one rule and was an ancient power that existed from approximately the 1st century to the 7th century Common Era, and was a major player in terms of commerce between the Roman Empire and ancient India. And the rulers of this land facilitated trade between the two by minting their own currencies. They shared in a lot of power between themselves, the Greeks, the Persians, and the Chinese, and were considered equal partners to those extensive civilizations. This kingdom flourished at the decline of the kingdom of Kush, and from a political standpoint became the dominant power of this area. In modern times, the Horn of Africa is still an important complex of political strife as well as great resources. It is still a central supplier of copper and bauxite, which is a fundamental core to developing aluminums. And it also produces a large amount of natural gases. To understand further how this area has transitioned from its ancient past into its modern history, I'll look more deeply at each of the 4 countries that make up this continent in successive videos. But as always, thank you for stopping in at Nine World Chronicles. Please remember to watch some of our videos that are related in concepts to this particular video. But as always, we ask that you like and subscribe.